Welcome to session 3 of our Embodied Existence series. And in this session today, we will be exploring our mind, our mental layer, also known as the Manomaya layer. And in this layer, we are able to remember and experience firsthand that we are the observer and the observed. And so we'll be starting standing today, but I do welcome you to have some blocks or a wall nearby, and also a blanket if you would like to have a little bit of support for your knees when we find our way back down toward the mat. So if you'd like, you could find your feet underneath you, perhaps allowing your gaze to stay open for a moment, maybe looking around you, allowing your feet and your toes to spread out, and adjusting your stance to your desired width. I like to have my feet about hip distance apart, give or take, but you can have your feet together. You can have them wider than hip distance. It's really what feels supportive to you and your body in this moment. And when you would like to close your eyes, if you choose to close your eyes, because you could leave them open, you might continue to sway through your feet, or you might choose to find stillness. Starting to bring some awareness into your body. Shifting all of the outward focus inward. Knowing that this is your practice, this is your time. Everything else can wait. And as you shift from side to side, if you are swaying, you might bring some awareness into your feet and feel the weight shifting from one foot to the other. If you are in stillness, you might simply just notice the weight of your feet as gravity presses your body down and connects you with your mat. Staying here for another 1 or 2 breaths. Everything in this class is an invitation, which means that you always reserve the right to say yes or no to anything in this class. I'm here to provide options, but ultimately it is your choice what you do with your body. If you are ready to come back to stillness, if you are swaying, then you might begin to find center. Option to place one hand over your heart and one over your abdomen, or you might choose to leave your hands where they are. In this class today, I invite you to work with a simple affirmation and let it be a reminder of the workings of this mental layer, our mind, our headspace. I am the observer and the observed. So as you are here observing your body, you are also the one that is being observed. And as we go through class today, we'll be exploring some balance shapes. And I welcome you to just notice what's going on in your headspace as we connect with our bodies and move together. What kind of thoughts, what kind of voice is speaking? Is it kind? Is it harsh? And can we observe whatever is happening in our headspace with curiosity and non-judgment, knowing that just because we have a thought doesn't make it true. And so when you're ready, you might join me at the top of your mat, perhaps releasing your hands down and maybe rolling through your shoulders or your neck as you see fit. And we'll begin our class with 4 half sun salutations, creating a rhythm. So when you're ready, you might inhale and reach your arms up overhead. And as you exhale, option to begin folding forward. Here you might adjust your stance, maybe taking your feet closer together or farther apart, depending on what you need. Option to micro bend or deep bend into the knees if that calls to you. And with your next inhale, you might bring your hands to your shins or maybe even to the tops of your quads as we find a halfway lift. Option to really lengthen through your spine, even through the back of your skull, perhaps taking your gaze to look at the mat. And then an exhale to fold right back down if you're ready for it. Because if you're not, you can take your time. And then an inhale to press into your feet and rise all the way up. We'll take 3 more. Finding your own pace, inhaling, reaching up, exhaling to fold down. Inhale. If you're ready for your halfway lift, you might begin to find it. And then exhale to settle back into your fold in your own timing. Inhale to rise. And then exhale to fold right back down. Continuing at your own pace for a halfway lift, breathing in. And a fold with an exhale. Inhale to sweep yourself up. Last one. Exhaling to fold. Halfway lift when you breathe in. And a fold when you breathe out. For this last fold, option to allow your arms and your neck and your head to just grow heavy. If your hamstrings, the muscles in the backs of your legs, are feeling really tight, it might feel welcome to add a bend into your knees if you haven't already, creating a little bit more space. Taking one more breath here, maybe shaking your head no, and then nodding a yes. And then if you're ready, you could bring your hands to the floor, bending your knees to reach, and then stepping one foot back, and then the other as we bring our knees to the mat. Here, if you would like some support for your knees, I definitely do, then you could grab a blanket and place it underneath your knees, coming into a tabletop. And here we'll just have a few breaths of cat-cows moving into the spine. You might explore this by inhaling and allowing your spine and your stomach to drape down towards the earth. Maybe even opening your heart forward, gazing forward. And then with your exhale, you could explore taking your spine in the opposite direction, arching it up toward the sky. Maybe taking your gaze to look down at your own body. Perhaps you stay with this rhythm, inhaling to open, exhaling to close, Another option is that you just move in any way that calls to you. There's no agenda. There's no wrong way to move your body. However you want to be here for the next 3 rounds of breath is completely up to you. You might even explore making a big circle with your spine as you allow your spine to drop down towards the earth, sending it over to one side, curling it up towards the sky, to the opposite side, and then right back down. Last breath. And then when you feel complete, I'll meet you right back here at center. An option to take a child's pose. So here you might allow your knees to get a little bit wider than hip distance, maybe touching your toes back behind you. And then sending your hips back toward your heels. And you might keep your gaze up by either bringing your elbows to the floor or maybe stacking your fists. Or if it feels preferable to release your head to the mat, you could also do that. Maybe resting your forehead or even turning your head to one side. This child's pose is available for you at any time in class. At any point that your body needs a rest, you can return to this shape or any shape of your choosing to find a moment of reprieve for as long as you want until you're ready to move out of it. With your next inhale, you might decide to stay right here in this child's pose if that is what your body is asking for. Or if you want to continue moving, you could lift your head if it's not already, shifting yourself forward, back into your tabletop. An option to find a down dog. I like to walk my hands forward a little bit just to create some space. And then spreading my fingers wide, really suctioning my palms to the mat. If you're ready, you could tuck your toes. And option, keep your knees bent as we reach back through the arms, like we're stretching our armpits or our shoulders. And then option 2, release one heel to the floor and then switch it out for the other heel. We'll take just a few breaths here, about 3 rounds of breath to just open up the hamstrings, experience the shape in our bodies. You might spend these next 2 breaths just noticing what sensation is present for you. As you observe what's going on in your body, what kind of sensations are present, you're not just in your body, but you are using your mind to observe. In this, you are the observer and the observed. All right, so from your downward facing dog or child's pose, if you're in child's pose and you're ready to continue moving, you might shift forward into a tabletop. And if you are in down dog, option to explore lifting your right foot up. I like to come up on the tiptoes of my left leg, my left foot. This is a 3-legged dog. You don't have to do this, but if you'd like to explore it, you can. If not, you might just simply exhale, and wherever you are, draw your right knee forward and plant your right foot on the floor, maybe on the outside of your right hand, as we lower our left knees to the mat. Here, it might be helpful to have some blocks. If the floor is feeling a little bit far away, or if you just want the extra support, because it's nice to have. So as we find our way into this low lunge, you might begin to just feel into your body. Just take a moment to kind of notice what the first thing it is that you notice about this shape. And option to stay in this low lunge here, or if you'd like to add a little bit of dynamic movement, you could send your blocks a little bit further back and then lengthen through your right leg. You might even allow your right toes to come up off of the mat for half splits. Now at any point you could choose to just hold whatever shape that you're in. If this feels welcome to just sit and be in it, that's awesome. You can be in it. If you prefer movement, especially if your body is like, whoa, this is feeling like a really big sensation, then you could just rock in and out. So wherever you are, stillness or movement, I invite you to be here for the next 3 rounds of breath. Last one. The next time you are in a low lunge, I invite you to place either one block on the inside of your right foot or forgo the block. We're going to be taking a twist, but you have 2 options. So option 1, you might begin to send your hips back so that you can find some space. And then maybe you inhale and reach your arms up here in this low lunge. Option 1 is a closed twist. This is going to feel a little bit tighter in your rib cage. And if you are pregnant, you might avoid a closed twist because it takes a little bit of room away from baby. So you can just choose what feels right to you. So inhaling up, option 1, closed twist. Exhale, you can bring your right hand either to the floor or your block and peel your left shoulder back, maybe reaching your left arm over toward your left ear. If this does not feel welcome at all to your body, you can come back into your low lunge and exhale. Maybe bring your left hand to the block instead and peel your right shoulder back. So there's no right or wrong. It's whatever you want it to be. Last breath wherever you are. And then if you feel complete, you could bring yourself back to center. And bringing your hands to the floor or your blocks, if you still want that space, you could send your right foot back. An option here to either take a child's pose or join me for a little modified vinyasa as we come into our tabletop, breathing in, and then exhale to lower down onto our stomachs. With our hands planted on the floor, you might find a cobra by inhaling, pressing your hands into the mat and opening your heart space forward. Come up only to where it feels right to you. And then with an exhale, you might continue to press into your hands, send your hips back for either a child's pose or a down dog. By tucking your toes, lifting your hips. 3 full breaths here. Last one. Maybe you add a little bit of breath to your next inhale, and perhaps exhale through the mouth. If you took a three-legged dog on your first side and you want to do it on this side, option to lift your left leg up high. Maybe you come up on the tiptoes of your right foot if you're in down dog. And then if you're in child's pose, you might shift forward into a tabletop as we all bring our left knee forward if you're ready for it, and plant the left foot, releasing your right knee to the mat. And again, option for some blocks here. Taking a moment to feel. This side might feel really different. I know it does for me. This side feels significantly tighter in my body, and that's normal. We don't use the two sides of our bodies equally. So you could choose stillness here, or if you want, you could choose some movement, perhaps lengthening through your left leg, peeling your left toes up. So you decide. 3 breaths. Last one. All right. You can continue moving back and forth if you are in movement, or if you're ready to come back into your lunge and you'd like to join me for the twist, you can choose which twist you'd like. As we inhale and reach our arms up. And then exhale. You could bring your left hand to the floor or your block and peel your right shoulder forward, open, so back. Or you could place your right hand on the floor and go the opposite direction. You choose. How's your breath moving? Last breath here. If you're ready, you could start to bring your top hand back down to the earth as both hands meet your mat. And we send our front foot forward. And again, option, you could shift back into your child's pose. Maybe your body needs more rest today. Or if your body has a little bit more energy that it would like to expend, you could come into your tabletop, breathing in. Exhale, lower down to the earth. Inhale to press into your hands and lift your heart forward. Cobra. And then an exhale to press into your hands, press yourself back, child's pose, or tuck your toes for down dog. Let's just take one full breath in and out here. And you can take as long as you want here. If you're not ready to move on, you don't have to. But if you are, you might begin to take your gaze forward if you're in down dog, and begin to walk your feet forward. If you're in child's pose and you're ready to move on, you could shift forward into tabletop and then start stepping your feet forward, and I'll meet you in a forward fold. Connecting with your breath, option to inhale. Maybe you bring your hands to your shins as we find a halfway lift. And then an exhale to fold. If you are ready to rise, you might root down into your feet, bend your knees, and rise all the way up. And an exhale, option to bring your hands to heart center or release them down to your sides. If you feel a little bit wobbly or lightheaded, you might keep your eyes open. And just take a moment to arrive in this space, back into standing. You might even return your mental awareness back into your feet, just as we did at the beginning, noticing the connection here. Last breath. Option to add a bit of breath to your inhale. And exhale how you like. Okay. If you have a blanket on your mat, you might move it to one side, as we're going to need a little bit of space on our mat. And this is where it would be really helpful to have some blocks or a wall in front of you, because here in a little bit we're going to be coming into a Warrior 3, which is a balancing shape, and it would be helpful to have the blocks for your hands to come down to the floor, or to be able to reach forward and have your hands on the wall. So if you don't have blocks and you're going to use the wall, it'd be nice to face it and just measure yourself out so that if you come into like an L shape here, your fingertips or your palms are able to touch the wall. And that's how far away you'd want to be if you want to use the wall for this. Okay, but we're not going to get there just yet. We're going to add it into our flow. So here from your standing shape, we'll begin to find tree pose. So option 1, you could bring your right foot, your right toes to the inside of your left ankle. Feeling the strength of your standing leg support you. Option 2 is to bring your right foot to the inside of your left calf, shin area. And then option 3 is to skip the knee and bring it to the inside of your left thigh. So 3 options. I'm gonna stick down here at my shin area. That's what feels good to my body. So finding where you'd like to be. Option to bring your hands to heart center, or you might even roll the shoulders back and allow the arms to be open down at your side. If balance is feeling a little bit tricky today, find a still, unmoving spot directly in front of you and allow your eyes to latch on to that. And if you wobble, if you fall out of it, that's okay. Embrace the shakes. Embrace the wobbles. And take one more breath here. And then exhale out. And if you'd like to join me for Warrior 3, option to allow your right knee to point forward, so you can let go of tree pose and just point your right knee forward as we start to swim our right leg back. Option to bring your hands to the wall, or bring your hands down to your blocks as we lengthen through our right leg. Maybe your right toes spin down to point at the floor. Your left leg doesn't have to be straight. You can keep a bend in here, feeling that strength. If you are curious, you might even reach one hand or both hands away from the wall or your block and just kind of experience what that might feel like. As we take one more breath here. Then an inhale, you could send your right foot down to the floor if you're ready to find a Warrior 1. We explored this in last week's class. So, with your right foot plugged down into the mat. As always, another option, if warrior one doesn't feel welcome, you can come up onto your right ball of the foot, the right toes, for a high crescent lunge. So warrior one, you could feel into your body, maybe kind of allowing your hips and your knee to move, finding an inner alignment that feels stable and strong in your body. It doesn't have to look the same as mine. It can be for your body. And then once you feel stable, once you feel solid, option of hand placements. 1, you could put your hands at heart center. 2, you could inhale and reach them up. 3, you can do anything else you want to do with them. And I invite you to be here for the next 5 breaths. And I encourage you to find stillness if that feels okay for you today. And allow this shape for the next 4 breaths to be hard, or to shake, or to wobble, or to feel the burning of your muscles. Let it be what it is. And notice your thoughts as we're here in stillness. One or 2 more breaths. All right, last inhale. With your exhale, if you're ready, you could start to release your hands down to the mat. Option to step your left foot back. You might find your child's pose, or you might lower the knees to the mat, or hover the knees if you prefer, and we'll lower down onto our stomachs. As we inhale, press our hands into the mat, find your cobra. And an exhale to shift yourself back, child's pose or down dog, you choose. 1 full breath here. You can spend as much time as you want here. And if and when you are ready to find yourself back into a forward fold at the top of your mat, I'll meet you there. No rush. This is your time, your practice. And with your next inhale, you might start to find a halfway lift. And an exhale to fold. And an inhale to rise. Two or 3 breaths just to notice any difference. What's present for you? If you're ready for the next side, you could decide if you're going to use the wall, you can measure yourself out again. If you're going to use the blocks, you can grab those. And we'll come into a tree pose on the left side. So option 1, your left foot can come to the inside of your right ankle. Option 2, maybe a little bit further up on the shin. Option 3, maybe the inside of your thigh. So you decide. Find your focal point, if that's something you'd like to work with. Can you bring some awareness into your standing leg? Maybe noticing your quad and the engagement in your quad holding you up. As we take our last breath here. If you're ready for warrior 3, you could begin to point your left knee forward and swim it back. When you're ready, hands to the wall or the blocks if you want, or you might fly either one hand or both hands back or forward. You choose. How's your breath? Last one here, last breath. Embrace the shakes and the wobbles. And an exhale. You could send your left leg, left foot down. Finding a warrior 1. Adjusting as needed, or a high crescent lunge. Take this moment to feel into your body. You don't have to just stick the landing, right? We can take some time here. And then when you feel that you've arrived in whatever area you want to be in, whatever shape in your body, an inner alignment feels right to you, let's take our 5 breaths, your choice of hand placement. Hands at heart center, maybe reaching arms up or anywhere else. And let's take our 5 breaths. Option to find stillness. Notice where your mind goes when your body is doing something hard. Two more full breaths. Last one. If you're ready to release, you could begin to bring your hands down to the floor. If you're ready to, you could step your right foot back. Option to bring the knees to the mat or hover, or option for child's pose as we lower down into our stomachs. Inhaling for your cobra if you choose to take it. And an exhale to send yourself back. Option for child's pose or our very last down dog of the class. What does your body need right now? You don't have to force yourself to do something you don't want to do. One more full breath if you are in down dog. And then if you'd like to release down into a child's pose, that is an option. As we take some time here, we'll be here for the next 5 to 7 breaths. Can you bring some awareness into your headspace? Noticing what kind of pace are your thoughts moving at right now? Without judgment, without labeling your thoughts as good or bad, can you just become aware of what you're focusing on or what you're thinking about? Holding that awareness for just one more breath. And with your exhale, letting that awareness go. Coming back into your body. Feeling the shape that you are in. And noticing any physical effects of the practice that we just did together. You might choose to stay here in child's pose for as long as you like. Or if you're ready to move on, you might begin to lift your head and find yourself forward into a tabletop. And we'll begin to set up for pigeon pose. So, option to extend your right leg back behind you. And then begin to draw your right knee toward your chest as we send our right ankle toward our left hand. And if you need to grab a hold of your right ankle with your hand to do that, then that is just fine. You can maneuver yourself as needed. And then tucking our back toes, you can scooch your left leg back out long and allow your right knee to come down onto the mat as we come into our pigeon pose. Now, the more of a 90-degree angle that your shin and your knee are in, the more intense this shape is going to feel, and it might not even be where your body wants to be today. So you could allow your right ankle to come back toward you, maybe even just allowing it to naturally find its way back, and then stop wherever it wants to stop. And then here you could allow yourself to come down onto your elbows if you want, or you could always use a block to support your forehead so that you don't have to hold yourself up with all of your neck muscles. And then another option, if this shape is just feeling really tight, really intense, is you could take your blanket, fold it into, I don't know, what is that, like a quarter or a half? I don't know. Guess it depends on our starting point, right? And you could take your blanket and slide it right underneath your hips so that instead of being so far down, closer to the floor, the blanket kind of holds you up a little bit and prevents you from sinking so far down and kind of takes the edge off of the shape a little bit. You could always use a bolster in the same manner. Okay, so wherever you end up, whether it be this pigeon pose, supported or not supported, or foregoing it completely if you're like, nope, I don't want to be here today, that's okay. You can do what feels right to your body. And we'll be here, wherever we are, for the next 7 to 8 breaths. Where does your mind go when your body becomes still? Last few breaths here. If you feel complete on this side, you could begin to press yourself up. Option 2, tuck your back toes, lift up your back knee, and just allow your right leg to straighten out. Maybe giving it a stretch. And then we'll switch sides. So same thing, but this time the other way around. So if you want, you could extend your left leg and then draw your right knee in close to your chest Bringing your left ankle over to your right hand. Tucking your back toes, lifting up on your back knee, and just scooching your leg back so that you have a little bit of room to lower down. Remembering that you can use the folded blanket or even bolster underneath your hips to give you a little bit of support. Option to come down into your elbows, maybe utilize your block or blanket or something to support your head if you'd like it. Taking a moment to settle in, adjust everything to your liking. And then when you arrive, we'll be here for about 8 breaths. A few more breaths here. Starting to find some completion with your next breath. And then if you are ready to move on, because if you're not, you can stay here longer. But you could begin to press yourself up and away from the floor, allowing your left leg to straighten out. And then we'll begin to find our way into whatever final resting shape you want to be in for our guided meditation and then time of rest, our Shavasana. So there's lots of options, and you can pick something that I say or you can pick something totally different, but you could come to lie on your back, perhaps supporting your knees with a blanket underneath, or supporting your lower back with a blanket underneath your knees or a bolster underneath your knees. You could stay seated the whole time if you want. You could always rest your back against the wall, maybe placing a bolster or a blanket underneath you. You could also lie on your stomach or lie on your side, or you could always take your legs up the wall. There's so many options, and really it just is whatever allows you to sink into a time of supported rest. There's no right or wrong. I'm going to choose to stay seated because that's what feels right to my body today, but you might decide to lie down. It's whatever you want to do. So taking your time, setting up your space. And then when you arrive, we'll begin to move into a time of receiving some rest. Taking a moment to adjust as needed. If you chose to lie on your back, it might feel welcome to pull your knees in toward your chest, maybe rocking from side to side a little bit. And then as you feel ready, you might take a conscious breath in through your nose and out. Option to scan through your body. Your Manomaya layer. Noticing any changes in your physical body that might have occurred from moving and breathing through this class. Noticing perhaps the temperature of your body. Or maybe even the pace of your heart rate. And then shifting your awareness to your inhale and your exhale. Knowing that you don't have to force yourself to breathe in any certain way. But you might just notice the fact that your breath is moving in and out, setting its own rhythm, and noticing what that rhythm might be. Here in this layer, your breath layer, the pranamaya layer, we also have our voice, as we explored in our last session. And here you might bring some of those needs that you distinguished last week to the front of your mind. Just holding them there in acknowledgement, or if your needs have updated or changed for today, you might allow those to come up. And then finally releasing your breath layer and floating up into your headspace. You might start by noticing how your mind and your thoughts are moving in this moment. Are the thoughts moving really quickly? Or very slowly, maybe starting to wind down? There's no right or wrong. In this layer, our Manomaya layer, our headspace, this is where we have thought and imagination. This is where we can create stories or solutions. And even as our minds are capable of all of these things and more, of memory as well, we are ultimately the observers, and that's what you're doing right now. It's nothing fancy, simply becoming aware of the fact that there is something to observe. And what there is to observe is you, your thoughts, your awareness, your experiences. You're doing it right now. You are the observer and the observed. Staying with this awareness for just another couple breaths. And then with your next inhale, you might take a conscious breath in and let it go, releasing any effort and sinking back down into your body, feeling the mat and the props underneath you, feeling your muscles soften. As we shift down into our time of rest, and I'll be quiet now for the remainder of our class for the next 3.5 minutes. And I'll let you know when this time is complete. And just know that there's no agenda here. There's nothing for you to do or accomplish. Just rest. You can choose to stay here in this place of rest until you are ready to leave it. There's no rush. You can stay here as long as you want. And if and when you are ready rest yourself up and move on with your day. You can decide when that is. If you are already complete, you'd like to join me in any seated shape, you might bring your hands to heart center and perhaps join me for a collective breath as we exhale all of our air out. And then breathe in together. I hope that you feel safe, connected, and at home in your body. Thank you.